Yo, what's up people, it's your boy P, also known as Captain P67. We're here today for my Infernal Death Knights builds. So as you can see from the footage, these Death Knights are pretty insane, and Infernal Death Knights on top of that. What I've included in the footage for you is all the pinnacle bosses, all endgame content, including the Secumus trials, all like literally just melted, super melted. I did literally want to showcase every aspect of the build in those clips, so I wanted to show how durable the minions can be. They are actually immortal with Tekrod's Revenge to a certain extent. And also, as far as the mapping, I've included a super juice T16 map with all the modifiers, all the bells and whistles as well. In regards to Death Knights themselves, because I think previously from other people's perspective they're too slow for mapping. So what I wanted to do is not only make another original build, and if you do want to check out my other Zealots build, which is phenomenal, a Lich Power Zealots build, that's like godly for boss killing. It's also, I'd say, medium size in regards to mapping. You can check that out. That's under 150 divines. And then I also made, just 5 days ago, I made a Lich Chaos Wasp build as well, which was insane too. That has crazy S tier mapping, and also the boss and I got to S tier is pretty insane. But I'll link both those builds in the description below. But without further ado, let's get into this build. I'll cover everything top to bottom, and like I said, I've already included in the footage for you what the build can do, and I've double tested it on stream. So basically this build can do absolutely everything in a matter of seconds, can melt all bosses, does millions and millions of damage, T16 super juiced, all the citadels included. The damage is so OP, sometimes it kind of breaks bosses, it kind of phases them into their second phase, and sometimes their bosses don't even get to phase at all, because it just does so much damage. So what we're going to do is we'll go over the normal rotation with my builds, we'll go over the gear, we'll go over the skills, the passives, the rotation, then I'll go into total stats, and then we'll get into it. And what I've also included is full Mobilytics link as well. I did actually get a comment on one of my builds recently with Mobilytics that the information wasn't appearing. I have imported a character, so whenever you go into my Mobilytics, just make sure you go to import build, equipment or variant, and it will show up all the information you need as well. Alright, so let's get into it. I'll be as quick as we can and just be as informal as I can, as well as giving out as much information I can as well. And we'll just cover everything. So I guess we can start off firstly with the Scepter itself. With the Scepter, you do preferably want to get +4 or +5. The higher the levels, the more damage, the better overall for you. However, which was mentioned in my Zealots build, which I'll also include in the links in the description below, you can start off with a +3 just like everything. And if you also are strict on budget, my Power Zealots build, you can start with like around 150 divines, just under. Start with that, and then you can build into the Wasp version or this version as well. But most important, make sure you get plus the minion skills, which will help out a lot with the build and do more damage and make your mapping quicker, bossing quicker, get more loot, upgrade better as well. You also want to go for base spirit, so the higher base spirit you can get, the better. On these higher Scepters, you can get 200 with the quality, some higher 202, 206 I believe. And then also you do want flat increased spirit if possible as well. Again, the higher the better. Also, allies in your presence deal more damage, so we got 89% flat damage, so if you can get that on your Scepter itself, that will definitely be beneficial for damage, not just for the one type of minion. And also I'll go into that with this build. I am not just reliant on Death Knights for the damage, or Infernal Death Knights. All my minions do damage, and the synergy, the way I made it, kind of covers everything. So if you want a fast map clear, it can do that. If you want to kill bosses, it can do that. It's that simple. Also, you want allies in your presence regenerate their health, which I'll go into the tech why I think it's good to have overall for all minions builds. But if you can get that, that is a bonus. Mana regen isn't required with this build as much, because we don't really proc off that. So it doesn't matter if we're on constantly low mana, doesn't make any difference, which is pretty awesome. But if you can get that, you can add more skills and do more with the build itself. And again, I'll go into the synergy with you. And then if you can see at the end, increase spirit again, which totals up to 90, I believe. 50, 30, 80 plus the 3 and the 7, 90. So as much increased spirit you can get, the better. More minions, more damage, just beneficial for you. Now in regards to the helmet, you do want to get a helmet with +2 to level of all minion skills and as much energy shield as you can. However, we are on the Infernalist, so the more life you can get, the better as well. So that's another thing which I'll go into. So life is beneficial on the items if you can get it, and energy shield, and obviously rarity. We've got included some more drops. From the footage I've included, I do get a lot of raw drops in general, a lot of raw divines on maps, a lot of rarity, and I believe on this one I got 143 rarity, just like my other two builds. So the rarity is very high, and I'm constantly getting a lot of currency on maps, raw divines, chaos, perfect chaos, a lot of that. And obviously if you're running temples, a lot of raw drops, so it's more beneficial. So that kind of covers the helmet, and also the rune itself. The most important part, you do want one rune with increased reservation, efficiency of minion skills, allowing you to have more minions, and the reservation efficiency as well, allowing you to do more. Now in regards to the amulet, you do want to get +3 to minion skills, and rarity is just something else if you can get it, but the main two things are +3 to minion skills is very important. But again, you can start off with 1 and then build it up as you get 2 and 3 and then +4. And also spirit, if you can get around 42 spirit, I got 44 on this one, but around 42 would be ideal, because I have got some spirit left on this particular build, just a little bit. But the more spirit the better basically for you, and obviously any sort of resistances and global defense will help you out as well. Now in regards to the offhand, we have got a focus, so this is pretty much the same thing. As much energy shield as you can get. Mana regen is a bonus, don't have to have it, but any sort of mana regen would be beneficial for a couple of extra skills and extra damage and mapping, but it's not ideally required. But again, if it's there, just get it. Fire resistance, and of course 2 to level of minion skills again. So if you can see a repeat process, minion skills, minion skills, minion skills, minion skills. And then in regards to body armor, you do want to get as much energy shield as you can to be as tanky as you can. Life regen can be kind of helpful since we are running Infernalist, and the more HP we have the better for more survivability. However, the spirit itself is the most kind of important thing. So I've mentioned this on my other videos, 61 is the cap. So whenever you go into the trade market or you're just looking for items, you can just literally put in 61 spirit to break it down quicker, and then work on that in regards to your budget, and then just start increasing the energy shield over and over. I believe there are some for like 1,000 energy shield, which is a lot more tanky. I have got like 1,000 divine spare, but I literally made this build in like 4 days, 5 days, and then I've got 3 other builds coming out as well. So I've been doing like a brand new original builds every week basically. But I got 1,000 currency spare pretty much right now, so we can increase that if we want to. But I wanted to show a build that's viable, and anyone can kind of get it. As long as you put the work in, and obviously with a high rarity you can get that as well, so we are goods to go. What's up Fendi, welcome back to the stream. I'm just in the middle of a YouTube video, so great to see you back. I hope you're well, and if you do need any more help on that build that you're doing, let me know as well and I got you. And okay, so spirit, like as mentioned, 61 spirit is the ideal amount. However, you can get slightly more. So if you got more currency, you can invest more into the build. The more you invest, the more you're going to get out of it. But this is just like a base template, and then change whatever you want accordingly as you do, and we are good to go as well. Alright, we've actually got this funky mini stuff on the screen. I'll remove that for now, and I'll bring it back in a minute. Alright, and in regards to rings now, Venter's Gamble is pretty much best in slot for the reasons I've already mentioned. With Venter's Gamble Ring, not only do we get rarity, so you get more drops, get more currency, then you can upgrade the build. We also get maximum life, which again I mentioned, because we are Infernalist, the more life we get, the more spirit we get with reservation. So that's perfect. Spirit again, perfect. More rarity, perfect. And then resistances, because you've got all 3 covered, it's kind of best in slot because you can put it in both rings, or use the Ring of Calandra as well if you have got a god tier roll on one. But these are pretty easy to get, and you can get some really good stats to cover all your resistances, ideally for your build. So these are definitely in best in slot. Now in regards to gloves, you want to get as much energy shield as you can. More life again is phenomenal, and you can get rarity, which can increase your drops again, which I've covered. And you can also get good resistances. So in regards to gloves, main things you want to look at is potentially energy shield, some life, rarity when you get more currency. If you got a lot of currency, definitely get that, and then your resistances as well. Now, in regards to the belt, we've gone for Ingenuity belt because it does actually increase the bonuses gained from the left ring and right ring. And whereas I mentioned these are best in slot, you're going to basically boost all the points you need, which is beneficial for you. So again, more life, more spirit, more rarity, more resistances. So this is literally best in slot. It's absolutely perfect. And obviously with again with higher currency, you could get a better roll overall, and it'd be best in slot for you. But anything with like 2 charm slots would be beneficial, so you can use all the charm slots, so just keep an eye out for that. That's another thing I'd say, a little tidbit. But anything, as long as it has some sort of bonuses from either or, work with that. And then again, you can build it up as you get more drops. Now in regards to boots, we have got the Bones of Ula Lattice sandals. So the reason for this is it pretty much has again the best in slot stats that you may want to have. So you got some decent movement speed, you got increased energy shield, you got more life, you got more mana. But the key point of it is 30% increased reservation efficiency of skills which create undead minions. So the higher you get this, and I believe the highest you can get is 36%, I think on a double corrupted. So if you got a bit more currency or you're flowing, you could buy those, and then you can get more spirit, which means again more minions, more damage, and you can scale that. But you can get a lower end one, which I've included on purpose, with 3 slots, so you can kind of cover all the resistances or add more energy shield if you're missing that on your build as well. And also again, just use this build as a template and then tweak it accordingly to make sure it suits you and your play style. But what I found, this is just perfect setup for me, and it just does everything I need it to do. Now in regards to flasks, I've mentioned this in my other minions build videos. You can use any flask, so if you got higher currency and you got the Oroth flask, it's pretty perfect. However, if you're just blasting, I wanted to include regular items. I found this in a regular T15, I think I said before, map, and I've been using this ever since. So grants 73% of life recovery to minions, which can be beneficial. So if you find that some of your minions are dying, so for example you don't have the allies in your presence regenerate life, you could also just get a flask for now and then just use this to recover the minions HP. But any flask will do and you're good to go. In regards to charms, there isn't anything that's required, so you can use whatever you need. But we've just got immunity to freeze, so frozen, immunity to stun, recover life, and then we've actually got Fall of the Silver Axe, so we got onslaught, so we're unaffected by slow. So you do probably want to use some charms to get around that. And then what I also find is pretty cool, I've used the Melting Maelstrom flask. Since I said mana isn't an issue, we are using a lot of mana though anyway for all our skills and our minions constantly. So why not do more damage with this, which also does chaos damage to enemies. And also because we have health regen in our build, we can kind of get that back if we do take any chaos damage. And we have got some resistance. But with this you could also use whatever flask you want, which is beneficial for you. But I'll just use this in this build because if I can do more damage, why not? And then also in my passive tree, I am scaling a bit of spell damage for myself as well, which does scale into this. So we're just double dipping on the damage for us as well as our minions. Okay, so that kind of covers off the gear. Now if you are leveling, I have mentioning sort of leveling gear in my other build videos, so you can check those out and I'll link those in the description for you. But pretty much same thing, when you're going through the campaign, just go for go to minions first and foremost. I'll go for the passive tree, work your way up. You can also use this item, which you can find early in the game, and it's only a low level at 30, and it's pretty godlike. So this will give you more energy shield for survivability. Minions will have more life, meaning they can do more DPS. You get the mana regen as well. They also do 25% extra damage, which makes mapping a lot quicker earlier in the campaign as well as the game in general. And then you also got your resistances. Minions resistances are equal to yours, so that covers that for you as well. So it's pretty cool. Okay, so what we're gonna do, you finished it, lol, definitely paid more than 150, so you put some more investment into it, you're trying to get used to it. Oh, no doubt. Well, I'll go through the rest with you after Fendi for sure. And as the probably times have changed, obviously the market does change since I released that video, so prices would have gone up. But you can still work with it accordingly, and I'll definitely check out your build on stream today as well. Alright, so in regards to the... Actually, we'll go with the skills first, then we'll get back to this. So yeah, let's get over to the skills, and I'll move the camera for you, and we'll make sure everything's crystal clear on the screen. Okay, so I'm gonna move the camera and stuff so you can see fully all the skills, so nothing's being blocked, so we are good to go. Right, so just quickly, you could probably see these fire bolts coming out, or these chaos bolts coming out. Basically with this build, just in the other videos, I showed some tech that I found that's pretty awesome. If you can get a Rattling Scepter, you don't have to have it, but it's definitely beneficial, especially with this build and the other builds as well. You can get Skeletal Warriors for free, so it's a free skill. And then what you can do is, you can add in Amanamu's Tithe. This basically gives you buffs like a headhunter without having a headhunter. So we get 3 types of buff constantly. So as I just show you those chaos bolts, that's one that's pretty cool. So that does damage and does dot damage, which does scale off your damage as well, which I mentioned why we're double dipping. You also get a crazy aura, which is a massive aura, which I'm not sure why the radius is so large. Maybe because of the presence itself, but it's absolutely huge. And then because we are an Infernalist, we do damage with the aura as well. So it's like a Righteous Fire Sword aura, which does damage. And then the third one is a homing tracking fireball, which looks pretty awesome and does damage as well. And we constantly get that procced non-stop with the tech I found. So it's pretty awesome. So it procs every single time, works 24/7, and you don't have to do anything. The way you get that is you use Infernal Legion on these Skeletal Warriors. So what ends up happening, they end up killing themselves as soon as they spawn in. They take Ignite. They also do Ignite to damage around them. So you'll probably see them in a second. So there you go. They may have disappeared. So there you go. They just exploded. And then what happens is, when they die, they proc this for you. So as soon as they die, they basically get you this. And because it happens constantly in a loop, you're basically getting buffs non-stop. So you've got unlimited buffs. We're also using some Pain Offering as well as the Bone Offering. So Sacrificial Lamb will make sure these get killed before your other minions. However, if they're not available, but they pretty much are. If you do end up killing any of the minions, it's fine either way because you do so much damage. But that covers that for you. And then minion instability. Whereas they're killing themselves constantly, they also do an explosion. And they also do 15% of their maximum life as fire damage. Since we're doing a lot of damage and fire damage and other damage, poison, elemental, everything, it's just extra damage basically for free. Now, since we've got Infernal Hellhound or Infernal Hound, because we are using the Infernalist, this is pretty godlike. With the Infernalist, we also do damage for our minions, so the extra flammability. So we've added Searing Flaming to do more magnitude. We've also added Ignite for more the Ignite damage as well. But because the Infernal Hound does take damage with the other proc, we've added 10% damage taken from here as well. So you basically get a 30% damage reduction from hits. So it's taken from the minion's life or you take a hit. So this is really, really good for survivability. And you also recoup the damage taken by some minions' life as well. So this is pretty awesome. Now, since we've got our minion there, we've added Last Gasp in there. So it does have extra survivability once their life is reduced to 0. Because they can take more damage, they actually have less maximum life because of that. And then we've also added Magnified Area. So our Bloodhound not only does damage when it goes round, so is with us, it also takes the damage for us as well. So we get a 30% damage reduction with it, which is pretty awesome. Now, in regards to the next one, our main sort of MVPs, as you want to call them, is the Death Knight themselves. Now, what's really cool about these aren't the regular Death Knights. These are actually elite variants. So when you want to capture them, you can actually get them from Act 1. So if you go towards Act 1, I got them pretty quick actually. You just go to Man of Ramparts, you go through the first section, take a far right, and keep working your way towards the right. And what you see is not a normal version. You see one that's like glowing with like a white sort of aura, and it does like a crazy slam attack. As you can see from the footage at the start of the montage or the video itself, the slam is a special attack which can only be performed by the elites. So if you get the regulars, don't fret about it too much because you can re-enchant that item, but you do want to get the elite versions, otherwise you won't be able to do the slam attack. And then it will also show you the advanced info. So that's a regular basic attack, and then that's the slam attack itself. And then you can see the sort of damage numbers they do off base, but they do scale when we add the extra buffs on. And again, this is not including the pain offerings, this is just base damage. And we have 10 of them as well, so they do insane amount of damage. Absolutely insane. Alright, so quickly we'll go over what we've got. So try and get as high as amount of jewel you can get before you tame them. The higher the better, and they'll do more damage. We've got maximum quality 23 in these, which is phenomenal. I've also included Diala's Desire, which is best in slot. Not only do we get one more level, we get more quality, which increases their life, more DPS and everything included. And because I've already kind of explained the tech with the Infernal Legion, this does the same thing. They not only do crazy damage themselves, but they're like walking death basically. They basically walk and kill things. So they also take 30% of their maximum life as fire damage per second. However, what I've included is some tech I found before, which I've mentioned, and also anything within the radius of 2 meters takes fire damage based off the minion's 25 life. Now, what's pretty phenomenal about this, not only did they survive because we have regen, which I mentioned in the Skepta, as well as our potions, with this tech Rod's Revenge, I found minions from this sported skill die 20 seconds after their life is reduced to 0. Minions from sported skills gain Soul Eater. Soul Eater basically means they gain 40% increased attack and cast speed when their life is reduced to 0. As soon as they spawn in, their life is reduced to 0 because Infernal Legion. Tech Rod then kicks in, and then they basically get all the buffs without the negatives. And then by the time they do die, they respawn anyway. So it's pretty much unlimited, so it's pretty godlike. And this is what will increase the damage for you as well. And I've also included in the skills in the passive tree how we can get more attack and cast speed. Well, more attack speed in general, because from some people's feedback before, these Death Knights can be slow, but I've kind of made them fast for mapping or faster, and we have everything covered as well. Muster is pretty amazing, which I've covered before, but I'll go through it again. So supported minions deal 7% more damage for each type of minion you have summoned. So since we have warrior minions, we have mage minions, we have skeletals, we have arsonists, we also have the smaller little minions that come out from Unearth, and as Reaver we get 7% more, which again, when it says more, that's way more insane damage, so that scales really well. And then we've also got Feeding Frenzy. So whereas we got Tech Rod's Revenge, they can't die anyway, so no matter what, they can't die. So it doesn't matter if they take more damage, they actually do 30% more damage, which is why the damage is insane. And then also, whereas I mentioned these, that's flat damage, not including buffs, we then added Pain Offering, which kind of just basically buffs the minions. So it grants minions attack 34% increased, and it also gives the minions increased damage as well, 79%. We've added Brutus Brain, so it can't be destroyed once you proc it. Added the duration, so it's longer in general. Added Dance Macabre, so it actually does more, so it scales more for the effect itself. Then efficiency, so you're not using too much mana, since it costs quite a bit. And then we've also added Sacrificial Offering. So basically, it does increase the buff, but it takes a little bit of life from us, but we've got life regen. So on the body armor or any item, if you can get some sort of life regen, that would be beneficial for more survivability. But again, we have so many potions, and we don't only need to proc them now and again. You just click a potion once you use this, as well as using your other one, Bone Offering, as well. Then we've also gone for Skeletal Storm Mage, because we want to do all types of damage, not just rely on flat damage of one type. So we got all sorts of bases covered, and we can do all content without having to worry about minions, any enemies having any resistance. So Skeletal Storm Mages are pretty godlike because they shoot across the map. We've added more minion skills for more damage, more survivability. Muster I've already gone through as well. Rapid casting, since they do a lot of damage and quick damage. Feeding Frenzy is pretty much the same thing. And then because we've got one Storm Mage, we've added Exposure. So since they do so much damage and hit really quickly, they can hit with a Lightning Bolt. Then you can actually proc the command skills to do more damage once you proc this. And this lasts for 8 seconds as well. And then we've got Skeletal Snipers. Now this is pretty cool for like mapping and helping out. Because the Skeletal Snipers do a lot of like quick firing and quick hits, we've added some more tech. So these break a lot of armor, and also in the passive tree I've got any minions that do physical damage break armor as well. So with these, because the Death Knights aren't as quick as running to targets across the map, before any targets get to us, they either have their armor already broken, they explode with this. So with Muster, I've already gone through that. With Frenzy, I've gone through that as well. Every time the archers shoot, they will end up doing more physical damage, and they will also break armor a lot quicker, and also they will do an explosion. And then by the time any sort of enemies do get closer to you or your minions, their armor's fully broken, and because of Uruk smelting, they'll take more physical damage. Now our Spectre Death Knights do mainly physical damage anyway, and then the other minions do physical damage, and all the minions do physical damage. So this just scales really well for everything. So these basically kill anything off screen, and if they don't kill them, they break their arm, and then by the time they get to you, they're already dead anyway. And then the Death Knights will just finish them off. Then we've also gone for Skeletal Arsonist. So these will do poison, these will do bleed, again more ailments and damage, and the synergy of this is just absolutely phenomenal. Then we've added Fire Attunement, so they take more fire damage, and then Muster again, and Fire Exposure. So this will basically give Fire Exposure, your hand or your minion will get to them, do the more damage. And as you can probably see, there's a pattern. Everything just synergizes really, really well. And because all our minions are super tanky, the synergy is just phenomenal. So this is why we can have super quick map clear as well as bosses deleted. Now what I've also added is Unearth skill. So not only I mentioned our minions are doing damage, we can do a bit of damage. We can also raise any sort of corpses on the ground with Unearth. And what that will then do is proc into Infernal Legion. So if you don't know what Unearth does, so it raises spikes from the ground, but it also summons reviving minions. So these minions that come out are bone constructs. These bone constructs are classed as minions. The bone constructs come out, you can have up to 26. They will then do the same Infernal Legion tech, and they will just chase anything across the map, do damage to them physically, potentially break their armor, but on top of that they'll also then explode after and do more AoE, and we can have 26 of those, which is pretty insane. They also do poison damage as well, which also scales, and then they also do poison bursting plague, which is another AoE sort of effect as well. So they have multiple sort of resources to them. And whereas I mentioned we're doing fire damage, we're doing lightning damage, I've added elemental weakness, which can scale more damage, and I'll go through the rotation with you. But this just helps out way more, even if you're just going for the fire, but we are doing lightning as well, so it's just absolutely phenomenal. So we get the fire damage from minions, skeletals, Infernal Hound, Death Knights as well, Storm Mage, we're doing electric damage, and then we're doing fire damage from Arsonist. So that's why that does so much more damage. And also we're including Heightened Curse for the magnitude, magnified area, duration, potent exposure, and cursed ground as well, which covers that for you. And whereas I mentioned the other offering, we've got two offerings for a specific reason, but this is pretty much the same thing. So shielded minions take less damage, minions take reduced damage, and absorbs hits from 25% of minions maximum life as well. So this is a buff for a couple of things, but we've also, when I show you the passive tree, I'll show you why we've got it. It's pretty insane. And then we've got minion mastery for the higher levels, prolonged duration, normal stuff, and then sacrifice as well, since it offers more for the buff, and then efficiency, and then rapid casting. And then finally, I'm going to call this guy called Fred the Skeletal Reaver. He is absolutely phenomenal for a couple of reasons, and I'll explain the rotation, how he works. But basically, Fred is pretty awesome for a couple of reasons. He'll go out first and foremost and just chase and attack anything. While he's doing that, our skeletal snipers will sniper stuff while he's being used as somewhat a distraction and doing damage, as well as the arsonist. And what we've got included for him is bleed damage, which is, he does a lot of damage anyway, muster, which I've already gone through, rapid attacks, which is phenomenal, and feeding frenzy. And then finally heft, which is why he does so much damage. And even though he's like solo, he's just pretty awesome. So that is Fred for you. So that's his basic attacks, and then we can enrage him to do more damage as well. And we use a command skill, and the setup is perfect with him. So what we're going to do is, I am going to bring the camera back in a second, but what we will do is, we will go through the passives as quick as I can, and I'll go through the whole tree, and all of this will be including the mobilytics. So if you are busy and you haven't got time to go through the whole video, you can just go straight to the mobilytics, and everything will be broken down for you. So whereas I mentioned the Infernalist, what you want to go for is this one, minion life. So this will increase their survivability. The higher your minions are alive for, you can do more DPS. And whereas I mentioned the Infernal Hound itself, we've kind of gone through what that does and how it works. But that means you can summon it through the Loyal Hellhound and they take the damage reduction. We've also included 40% increased flammability magnitude, which I mentioned what happens with that. And then what happens with the Bringer of Flame is pretty awesome. So all damage from you and your allies in your presence, classed as your minions, contributes to flammability and ignite magnitude. So this will then scale off all the skills I've mentioned for the flammable attacks, as well as the ignite from all our minions, and it also scales from you if we are doing any sort of attacks. But we're not, like I said, we're not really doing anything personally. But that Unearth skill, because it summons the constructs, that works off that as well as the minions as well. So that is pretty beneficial for you. And then we got maximum life, so more survivability. And then if you cover all your resistance, which I have got fully capped, which is awesome. Apart from chaos, I haven't got fully capped out, but this will kind of work on your resistances and make it more beneficial for you. But this is a part of the way we're going to get to the next part, which is more life. And then finally, Baydat's Will. So it reserves 25% of life, but +1 to maximum spirit per 25 maximum life. So the more life you get, the more spirit we're going to get. and again, which will give you more minions and more damage. So you do want to work your way up towards this part of the tree where I mentioned we're double dipping. Increase spell damage, minions do more damage as well, which is pretty phenomenal, and then it kind of covers that as well. And then we've also added some strength, so the more life we get, the more minions we get, and more survivability, so we want to have a balance. But with this build, we are, just to quickly go off, we do have 11.3k energy shield, 1.3k HP, we do have damage reduction, so we are very, very, very tanky. But you could change some more points, you want to become more tanky as well, but I think this is the perfect balance. So with this, we get way more energy shield, intelligence as well, threshold to your energy shield overall, and then you can go down here for more energy shield, Reduced mana isn't really that much because we got mana regen and we got a lot of mana anyway, but this is pretty ideal for that. And if you work your way up here, minions have more life, and this also includes minion have increased attack and cast speed and movement speed, and minions have 20% movement speed, which will scale off your specters, since the feedback or the general consensus were they were slow, but I find they're quite like fast for me personally. And as far as mapping goes, they're just godlike, so I think this is a perfect balance. And then what I've added some really cool stuff. So not only do we get extra damage going up this route, but we also get stun build up, which is pretty ideal. And if you watch the footage, literally every pinnacle boss, every boss within a couple of hits gets stunned, which means they're getting a broken state. They can't do nothing to you, and you can do even more damage. And this is literally how we one phase all like citadels, everything we want to do, all content. Nothing really survives, and that's why it's so strong. And then finally, this is pretty awesome. So minions break equal to 3% of physical damage dealt. Now, as I showed you, the specters do so much damage of physical damage of flat. We always break the armor super quick. And I mentioned the other stuff with auric smelting and the other tech. But because all of our minions do physical damage, we're always breaking armor, which then allows us to do even more damage overall. So it's pretty awesome. Now, if you go up to here, these are the kind of jewel sockets you want to get. I've mentioned before how good these are, but you do want to get Grand Spectrum for the increased spirit, and it's pretty awesome to get these in general. So just get 3 of these, put them in the slots, and then work your way up here, and you can get minions have chaos resistance, and minions gain 10% of physical damage as chaos damage. That's more damage overall, and that'll go straight for their life. And then you can go over here for attack and cast speed, down here as well for intelligence, more AoE, and we got more spirit. And then here, more energy shield for you. And then also here, minions have more resistances, more life, more flat damage, more AoE, and then more damage from here. And then what I've gone for is to move down here, and then we get more damage from these. And that increases the damage. And then we've gone down here for more survivability. So Ancient Aegis is godlike for the body armor. So it increases the energy shield the more you get on there, which is why I mentioned that. And then we move down here so we can get another gem slot. So what I've done is I've added more energy shield, mana regen, minion increased damage, and attack and cast speed. Now there is also probably something now. I'm sure there was another note. Oh yeah. So if you do want to stretch out more points, or you say if you spent a lot more currency and you already giga tanky, you can go down here as well, which I was using before, but again, this is literally perfect for the setup I've got. And then you do want to work your way up here, another jewel socket here. And then also, you want to work your way up the tree. Now, when you're leveling originally, you do want to just go through here first, work your way through here, go up here, and then go up here, because you want reservation, which is off Lord of Horrors. So this is beneficial. And then we have more AoE, as you can see all the effects. And also, minions will inflict withered. And since we're doing chaos damage, withered will then scale the chaos damage on top. So this is just like so awesome for synergy. Now you can go over here for more energy shield, which I originally did, but again we don't need it, so I've kind of skipped that. And then we got more minion damage, more minion life here. Now this is the really cool damage I mentioned. The reason why we got 2 pain offerings or 2 offerings is for this. So we get AoE, and then finally 50% increased minion damage while you have at least 2 active offerings. Since the other one has Brutus in it and it's lasts for the full duration, and the other one doesn't have it, well, you get a minimum of 4 seconds of 50% increased buffs. That's minimum, so that is a huge damage increase. And then you're just going over here for more energy shield, which is a lot, and then we're going over here for the socket itself. So that covers that for you as well. So that's basically everything covered on the tree, and like I said, this will all be covered in the mobility anyway, so that'll be fully covered for you. So what we're going to go over now is the rotation, then I'll go over the total stats, and that should be everything covered for you, top to bottom. And also I'll probably add a few more notes in the mobilistics as well, but that will be everything included. And I'm also live on Twitch every single day, so if you do need any help or you got any questions, I can help you there as well. Alright, perfect. So we've gone over the gear, we've gone over the skills, we've gone over the passive. So rotation, super simple. Whereas I mentioned Fred, literally, if you don't do this, I've noticed if you don't follow this rotation, you won't get the most optimal damage. Now, if you remember the footage at the very start where I killed Cully Mac in an insta-kill, same as the other bosses, you want to bring out Fred. So press Reaver, as you can probably see at the bottom, that's procced. So just always proc Reaver first. Then all you do is your 2 offerings. Then you get the 50% increase buff, and then that's it. Everything will instantly die. However, if you do want to add more, you can then add your skeletal snipers to do poison gas on top of that, which will then scale with more damage. But literally, as soon as you bring out the Reaver and you do your 2 offerings, by the time anything, whether it's pinnacle boss or regular, they will be hit with so much damage, their armor will break, they're already dead or dying from any dot damage. And then if you do want to add that extra, you can add that. But as you saw, Cully Mac instantly got defleeted before I even got to do my arrow. That's how quick the damage and how much damage it does. Same for Citadels on super juice maps. It just does way too much damage, and it's just godlike. So I'm kind of looking forward to what they do in the next patch. And again, I've done this off a base level, so I do know the ways I can increase the damage. I could also get a Prism of Belief and get a +3 to Spectres, which again would scale the damage. But again, I'm making several builds, and I'm making a build a week. I've only made this in 4 or 5 days, so if I don't need to increase anything, I don't see the point. We're good to go already. So that is the rotation covered for you as well, and it's literally that simple. And then finally, total stats, I guess I can cover for you. So I mentioned like rarity, which is pretty amazing. You should be able to see this if you can see that. Yeah, so on kill effects, so our item rarity is this one, and this is what you can probably see the last bit of it. So rarity monster, 143. So we have 143 rarity, which is just under the cap of 150, which is phenomenal. Total stats, I could move the camera again, but again, this will all be included in the mobilistics anyway. I guess I can just quickly move it and bring it back. So if you want to see this, you can. I know some people like to see total stats, so we'll cover that. So that is the total stats, and I can go back over that skill now actually, so you can see. Let's go over here. 143, yeah. These are all the other stuff that's included for damage reduction, and then basic attack is this. And you can pause the video at any point, and you can see the extra flammability and other damage in there. And then this is the crazy damage. If you just noticed that, I didn't even do anything, but it just went up. So that's a damage per second. That's average damage per use. That's not including the buffs. And that's times 10 because we have 10 of those specters as well. So the damage is pretty insane. Okay. And then finally, we'll just go over the total stats. So you can see all the total stats. 1.8k life. Over 11k. Energy shield. Mana 827. Spirit 633. All resistance is capped apart from chaos. 33 dex, 157 int, 111 strength, and those are the overall stats. So that's it, folks. That is everything covered for you. So that is my Infernal Death Knights build, made within 4 to 5 days. So I hope you enjoyed this build. Now, just one more quick tidbit. What I will say is, if you want a sort of under 150 divine sort of build that does god tier bossing and sort of like, I'd say A rank sort of mapping, go for my powered zealots build, which I'll include in the description below. If you want a super S tier mapping build and also I'd say S tier bossing build, you could go for my Infernal Chaos Wasp build, which I'll also include in the description in the links, or the links in the description. And then obviously if you want this build, which does everything just the same pretty much, you can go for this build as well. So you have many options and you can play around with them. I have got some other cool builds coming anyway, so stay tuned for that. but links will be in the description below. But again, that is my Infernal Death Knights build. So if you did enjoy the content, make sure you drop the video a like. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel for free as well, and I'm live on Twitch every single day. So if you got any questions, or if you want any more help on the game, if you want Sekima's carries, I've done Sekima's carries with this build as well, live on stream. I can help you with that for free, and also any sort of currency or mapping you want, I can cover that for you as well. And that's everything covered. But apart from that, wherever you are, have a good morning, have a good night, have a good evening. I will catch you on the next one. Take it easy and peace out.